Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kassandra, and in this class I am continuing my zodiac yoga series by now focusing on the sign of Virgo. So Virgo is a mutable earth sign. It also happens to be my rising sign, so it's one that I feel quite connected to. And when we're thinking about connecting with the energy and the themes and the symbolism of Virgo, we're really focusing on Virgo's ability to be very detail-oriented, reliable, smart, down to earth. And Virgo also has this really great strength of being able to create order out of chaos. Virgos usually strive to be of service to others. They are at their best when they are serving others and serving a greater purpose. They're really great at meeting other people's needs and also just being able to intuitively tell what someone else is needing. They can be very independent, very smart, very grounded and reliable. And on the shadow side, because each zodiac sign has its strength and its weaknesses, the light and the dark, the shadow side of Virgo is perfectionism, maybe being a little bit too critical or being judgmental. But overall, this is really a sign, again, that is meant to focus on the details, to bring order out of chaos, to be grounded, and to really truly practice self-care by taking care of ourselves. This is how we are best able to serve others, which is how a lot of Virgos can find a lot of purpose and fulfillment. But of course, it needs to be in balance. So the way we're going to tap into the energy of Virgo on the yoga mat is by doing a very detail-oriented yoga class. So I'm really going to go in depth when it comes to alignment in every pose that we do throughout this practice. So probably a lot of information coming at you, and I'm really going to be super specific about how I want you to be moving your body. But this is what Virgos are great at doing. And also this kind of serves a dual purpose, because remember, Virgo is the healer, really tapped into self-care and the sacredness of the body. So by paying close attention to our alignment and making sure that we're really respecting our bodies and moving properly, this is how we can really care for ourselves in the long run. So I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you, but hopefully this is a practice you can learn from quite a bit and hopefully apply what you're learning into other practices that you do with me along the way. Whenever I do my zodiac flows, I like to use affirmations that help us tap into the energy of the sign. So for Virgo, our affirmations are: I see the best in others and in myself. I can do anything I set my mind to, and I take great care of myself. So I see the best in others and in myself. I can do anything I set my mind to, and I take great care of myself. No props required, and let's lie down on our backs for a little bit of core activation and to really tune in to how we should be positioning our pelvis and working with our lower abdominals as we practice. So you can start with your feet flat on the floor. Just relax your arms by your sides, close your eyes. You can let your knees flop in towards each other a bit. Just taking some grounding breaths in and out through the nose. And you can start to ask yourself what qualities of Virgo you most associate with, which ones maybe feel the most foreign, whether or not you have this sign in your chart. It's really great for all of us to just kind of use this as an opportunity to learn more about ourselves. These signs can just reflect, kind of like holding a mirror to yourself. I'm really honoring the detail-oriented nature of Virgos. So lifting your knees up so they face straight up towards the sky. What I want you to do from here, I want you to push your lower back down into the mat. So usually when we're just reclining, there's probably enough space for you to put your hand where there's a gap here. I want you to close that gap so that you can no longer fit your palm underneath your lower back and mid back. So make that connection, and this should start to help you engage your lower abdominals, which is what we're looking for. From here, you're going to keep your lower back pushing into the mat and engaging through your core, and you're going to straighten your right leg and hover that right leg just a few inches off the mat. You're now going to extend your right arm up overhead, so it's like a half banana pose. I'm flexing through my right heel, I'm reaching out through my right arm, and I'm continuing to push my left foot into the floor, my left hand into the mat. Keep your lower back pushing down into the mat. As you exhale, you're slowly going to lift left leg and left arm up towards the ceiling. Keep reaching out through your heel. As you inhale, come back to that starting position where you're hovering right foot and right hand. And lift back up, exhale. So all the time going in and out of those two poses. So as you inhale, you stretch away from the midline. And as you exhale, you contract your core to lift the limbs up towards the ceiling, all the while making sure that your lower back stays in contact with the ground, your lower belly is engaged, and you're not tensing up your neck or your shoulders. Take one more. So inhale, stretch it out. Exhale, lift it up, and let's take reclined pigeon pose. Right ankle crosses over the top of your left knee, and you can pull through with your arms, drawing your left thigh in towards your belly. So learning to isolate different parts of our body, different sides, one from the other. That's a great way to strengthen ourselves in our practice. But we do need to really pay attention to detail as we do this. Take one more breath here, and then we'll come into our bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. You want to have your feet flat to the floor, hip width distance apart, and walk your heels in pretty close towards you so that you can kind of touch the back of your heels with your hands. As you do this, notice the tendency to widen your legs. I want your sit bones to be aligned with your knees and ankles, not the edges of your hips. So you might need to be a little bit more narrow than what you're used to doing. Shrug your shoulders underneath you, so you're opening and broadening through your chest. Push into your heels, squeeze through your glutes, close the gap again. So push your lower back into the floor and maintain this as you start to lift your seat off the mat. So what I don't want here is for an exaggerated lumbar curve to appear. I really want you to reach your tailbone and stretch it out as if you're trying to flatten out your lower back as much as possible. I also want you to squeeze your inner thighs towards one another and imagine you're putting more body weight into your big toes than any other part of your body. As you push down into your heels, think of dragging them back towards your shoulder blades so that you contract through your hamstrings. Keep relaxing your neck, squeeze through your inner thighs, and flatten out your lower back even more. One more breath in here, and we'll curl down inch by inch. As you lower, close the gap between your lower back and your mat. Pull the lower belly in, and we're going to straighten our left leg to hover the foot a few inches off the ground, and then extend your left arm up overhead, also hovering that arm up. Already you might notice that one side, maybe this feels a bit easier than on the other. Keep stretching out long, push your lower back into the floor, and as you exhale, you're going to lift left hand and left leg up. Try to keep your left leg straight, really stretch into the hamstrings, and then open up, big breath in to hover, and exhale, squeeze to lift it back up. Take about 3 more here on this side. Creating order out of chaos. Sometimes our bodies can feel a little bit chaotic, everything doing something different. We're really trying to organize ourselves and to find integrity through the movement. Last one, lifting up, and let's find our reclined pigeon pose. Left ankle over the top of your right knee and pull that thigh in. Just a big stretch here. I see the good in others and in myself. I can do anything I set my mind to. I take great care of myself. Let's release. Instead of doing that same variation of bridge pose again, we're going to do something that's called a functional bridge. This is from foundation training, a little different. You're going to almost straighten your legs. So I'm bending my knees just a little bit. They're maybe, 8 inches, 6 to 10 inches or so off the mat. I'm flexing my feet so that my heels are only in contact with the floor. I'm bending my elbows so I can push my upper arms into the mat. You're going to lengthen tailbone again. So again, imagine you're closing the gap between your lower back and the mat. Push into your heels, squeeze into your glutes, and lift your hips up. Really push your hands into the ground. Your hips are only going to lift an inch or two off the mat, and you're probably going to feel this in the back of your legs right away. Keep squeezing and lifting. This is how much I want you to feel your hamstrings work, even when we do the normal variation of bridge pose. Keep dragging your heels back. Inhale. And release. Point through your toes, reach your arms up overhead, big stretch here. And as you inhale, start to curl, chin towards your chest, reach your arms forward and see if you can do a full roll up, keeping your feet connected on the floor as you lift up. So really engaging through the lower belly. Inhale, arms rise, flex through your feet, staff pose. Palms go beside your hips, push your arms into the floor, roll your shoulders back, push the back of your knees into the mat, curl your toes back towards your shins, lift up through your chest, lift up through the crown of the head. This seems like a simple pose. There's actually so much going on. I'm shaking a little bit. This is a tough pose for me. Keep lifting up a little more. And let's release. Cross at the ankles, tabletop pose. Fingertips are spreading wide, palms under your shoulders, and I really want you to put more weight into your fingertips and knuckles. From here, we're going to extend our right leg up and back. Roll your right hip down so it's only the back of your leg that's facing towards the ceiling. Draw your lower belly in and flatten out the curve of your lower back. Very similar to motion to what we were doing just now when we were lying down on our backs. A little bit harder from this position. And then if you'd like, you can also reach your left arm forward, bicep along the ear. We're just holding here. Keep making those micro adjustments of trying to flatten out your lower back without compromising the hips or the shoulders. Bring your left hand back down, and now we're going to keep that right leg lifted. See if you can rotate over onto your left hand and left leg, left shin. Your right hand can come onto your hip, or you can reach your right arm up to the sky. So notice here, if you're tipping the pelvis forward, keep lengthening tailbone towards your heels, draw the lower belly in, squeeze into your glutes and flex through your right heel to lift your foot up a tiny bit higher. We're going to drop the right foot down to the mat and reach your right arm up and over. Just take a big side body stretch here. Lengthen out and release back to your tabletop pose. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Reestablish a firm foundation. So this is not like our cat and cow where we're tilting the pelvis up and down. Here we're really trying to find our neutral pelvis so that we're really forming like a solid plank, and you want to feel the lower belly suction in and up. This will help you control the lower abdominals and maintain a strong core so that you're not wavering as much. And then you can extend that left leg back. Try not to open up your hip. Keep an internal hip rotation, more so of a neutral pelvis more than anything else. Your glutes and hamstrings need to work to lift that leg up rather than swinging and dipping the belly down. So it is a harder variation this way. And then maybe your right arm also extends forward. I'm really not concerned with how high I'm getting my leg and how high I'm getting my arm. I don't even really care if I'm bending into my knee so much. My main focus is on making sure that both hip bones are at the same height and that as much as possible, I'm flattening out my lower back. We're gonna bring our right hand down to the mat, start to roll over onto that right shin and right palm as you lean. So I'm trying to stack my left shoulder directly over the top of the right one. Lengthen tailbone back. I'm gonna say that a lot this class. I apologize for the repetition, but it is important here. And then reach that left arm up, pull the lower belly in. So notice again, if you're puffing your chest forward or rounding and contracting, find that neutral spine. And you can set your left foot down, reach your left arm up and over, big side body stretch. And release. Let's find our first downward facing dog. You'll want to walk your hands a couple inches past your shoulders, tuck the toes under, and lift your hips up and back. So please don't worry about having your heels touching the floor or having your knees perfectly straight. Especially for the first time we're doing down dog in a class, I like to over-exaggerate the bend in my knees so that instead I can focus on opening through my chest by reaching through, almost like I'm trying to reach my chest towards my thighs. I'm letting my head be heavy, and I'm focusing on pushing into my fingertips and knuckles more than anything else. Curl tailbone up towards the sky, draw your lower belly in and up. And we're gonna reach our right leg up towards the sky just so you can find a nice hamstring stretch here, and we'll step our foot forward, coming into our low lunge. So right foot goes to the top of the mat, back knee comes down. Come on up here and make sure that you have your knee roughly aligned over the top of your ankle. We're gonna interlace our hands and place them over the front of our thigh. I'm gonna do this with my back toes curled under. What tends to happen in low lunge, we collapse in this way, we go deep, we have a big curve, and we lose the integrity of the pose. Instead, here, I want you to use your hands to push your thigh away from your body. And at the same time, imagine you're doing cat pose when you're rounding and contracting. So tailbone moves down. You're gonna feel this through your left quads, as if someone was almost like punching you, and you're rounding and contracting and moving the thigh away from you, chin to chest. Pull the lower belly in. So the way you have your pelvis right now, I want you to keep it this way and just lift your upper body to a neutral position. And you're gonna bring both hands to your lower back. With your hands flat on your lower back, squeeze your shoulder blades behind you and feel how you can encourage your tailbone to lengthen down. From here, now maybe you'd like to go a little deeper into your lunge by very lightly pressing your hips forward, but without sticking your butt out and kind of letting the belly drop. I really want you to maintain that same alignment. So you might not be going too much further into this lunge. I take great care of myself. This is one of the ways that we can do this. We take care of ourselves in each pose, through each practice, every time we step on the mat. With the back toes curled under, let's find our high lunge. So for me, high lunge, first thing that happens, I feel it in my hands. I feel how my tailbone lifts up. I need to bend into my back knee in order to maintain that strong core and a flat back so that my hips are underneath my shoulders. Once I have that, then I'm gonna reach my arms up. So feet are about hip width distance apart. Create that order out of chaos. And let's open up into Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2. So spin your back heel roughly parallel to the shorter edge of your mat and bring your hands to your hips. There's so much more in this pose than people realize. So first, we're bending into our right knee almost as if you were going to get that front leg parallel to the floor. It probably won't be parallel, okay? It's very normal for it not to go all the way down. Focus instead on your hips. Imagine you have two light bulbs on your hips, kind of like the headlights of a car, that are shining forward. Right now, my lights are shining at a 45-degree angle. I want them to be shining directly forward towards you, to the middle of my mat. So pull that left hip back, right hip forward. So now I'm aligned the way I wanted to, but what happened with my knee? It moved in. So while keeping those lights shining forward, I also want to squeeze my glutes to push that right knee open. So there's a big tension of opposites here as I sink down low. Maintain this, push into the feet, turn your palms to face up, bend your elbows, and squeeze your shoulder blades behind you. So see this opening that you're creating through your chest and this engagement through your shoulder blades. I want you to maintain it even as you straighten your arms. Once you're there, now you can face your palms down to the floor. So notice how there should be so much more engagement through your shoulders and your upper back versus just plopping into it and sending the arms out. So squeezing in, lengthening, and then turning the palms down. Right knee is pushing open, left hip is rotating back. And let's straighten that right leg. Preparing for a triangle pose. Let's bring our hands back on our hips. First thing that tends to happen when people go in triangle, as they send their hips back, if you imagine your lights again, that left light starts to point down at an angle. I still want to keep everything facing forward towards you guys. So I'm sending my hips back, not that much. And from here, right hand is going to drop down, maybe to hold on to my thigh or to hold on to my shin. Left arm is going to reach up. At the same time, I don't want to be tilting my pelvis forward so that my sit bones reach back and my belly goes forward. I want to try to keep a flat back, roll that left hip back, roll that left shoulder back as if I was leaning against a wall. Big stretch here. One more deep breath in the pose, and we're going to make our way to downward dog again, so you can look down to the floor, bend into that front knee. Plant your palms and step your right foot back so your feet are hip-width distance apart. Let's take a little vinyasa from here. Inhale into your plank pose. Draw your lower belly in towards your lower back. Reach the crown of your head forward and lift the back of your head up. A lot of us tend to drop our heads when we're in plank. I want a nice, straight, long line. Pushing into your fingertips and knuckles, keeping some weight in your heels. And from here, let's lower down. So elbows are bending at a 90-degree angle. Point your toes back, Cobra, Bhujangasana. Roll your shoulders back, squeeze your shoulder blades behind you. Push the tops of your feet into the floor in order to lift on up. Exhale, release, downward facing dog. I can do anything I set my mind to. The power of Virgo to get organized and get things done. Let's extend our left leg up towards the sky just so we can stretch our hamstrings. And we're going to find our low lunge on the second side. So left foot to the top of the mat. Back knee comes down to the floor. As you lift up, make sure you have your knee pointing forward over that second and third toe so it's not wobbling side to side, and you're keeping it over the ankle. You can interlace your hands, place them over that front thigh, and use that action of pushing the thigh away from you to round and contract as if you were doing this cat pose. And hopefully you'll be feeling this through your right quads and into the right hip flexors, the psoas muscle. So keep the same kind of alignment in your lower body, but just let your shoulders uncurl so that you're lifting up. And then you're going to bring both hands towards your lower back so that you can really feel into this flat back and maintain it. Pull the lower belly in and up. Squeeze your shoulder blades behind you. Open through your chest again. And then pushing into the feet, we're going to lift up into our high lunge, trying to maintain this same alignment. So again, I'm only able to maintain this alignment if I bend into my back knee. As soon as I straighten the back leg, I kind of pop up a little bit here. I do have quite a sway back, so that's something I need to be mindful of. And then you can reach your arms up. I see the best in others and in myself. I added this affirmation just because Virgos can be potentially a little critical or judgmental. So we want to focus on the good. Opening into our warrior two. So back foot spins roughly parallel to the shorter edge of your mat. You can bring your hands to your hips. So again, imagine those two headlights right on your hip bones. Square them up so that they are shining directly towards the middle of your mat. So everything is facing over to the long edge of your mat. As I'm pulling my right hip back, I'm also at the same time going to try to press my left knee open a little more so that my knee is pointing over the second and third toe, right in the middle of my foot. Sinking down, keeping your shoulders directly over your hips. You're not leaning forward, you're not leaning back, you're centered. Squeeze your elbows back behind you. Feel the engagement through your upper back. Palms are facing up. Keep this same kind of squeezing feeling as you slowly straighten out your arms. Once they're straight, then you can turn your palms facing down to the floor for your warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2 pose. My hands are roughly directly over the top of my feet. Tailbone is reaching down. Let's straighten that left leg. Bring your hands back to your hips so you can keep them squared as you transition to your triangle pose. So keep that left hip pulling back as you lean your chest forward and start to slide your left hand down your left leg, grabbing onto whatever is appropriate to you here and extending your right arm up towards the sky. So my right shoulder is over my left and my right hip is over my left. I'm pushing into both legs evenly. I don't think I've ever talked so much in a yoga class before. And I feel like there's still so much more I could say, but we gotta focus on the essential. So keep leaning against that imaginary wall, lengthening your tailbone back, squeeze tight through the lower belly, look down towards the floor, start to bend into that front knee so we can come back into our downward facing dog. So framing your front foot with your palms, stepping the left foot back. Hands are shoulder width distance apart, feet are hip width distance apart. Let's come back into that plank pose. Feel free to drop down onto your knees. So I want one long line from the top of your head all the way down into your heels. Imagine you were hugging a big beach ball in between your upper arms. So squeeze your arms towards one another. Remember, lift the back of your head up. Hug through your inner thighs as if there was a block there. And now let's lower down into your cobra pose. Roll the head of the arm bones back, keep your elbows bent and hugging in. It's maybe like 50% arm strength, 50% back muscle strength to hold you up. And release child's pose, balasana. Big toes together, knees apart. Press your hips towards your heels and relax on down. Just let yourself soften here in the pose as you come back to your breath, in and out through the nose. The Virgos are so good at being of service to others, caring for others, knowing what it is that someone needs. It's part of that healer archetype, but it needs to stay grounded. And we need to make sure we are caring for ourselves just as much. Letting go of perfectionism, of criticism, of judgment. Letting other people be who they are, letting ourselves be who we are, flaws and all. I take great care of myself. I can do anything I set my mind to. I see the good in others and in myself. Let's walk our hands back, start to lift upper body off the ground, and just come to take a seat. We'll take a little twist here. Before closing our practice, left hand to your right knee, right hand behind you as you open up. So here, I really need you to lengthen up. Notice if you're tilting forward or back, keep a neutral spine, draw the lower belly in. And release, second side, right hand to your left knee, left hand back. Growing tall through this twist. How are you best connecting to this mutable earth sign? Coming back through to center. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths here. I see the good in others and in myself. I can do anything I set my mind to. I take great care of myself. Let's join our palms together at the front of the heart. And we'll close this practice by chanting Om one time. Inhale to chant, breathe in. Thank you so very much, everyone, for doing this very chatty practice, literally the opposite of my minimal cues classes that I like to teach as well. I hope you enjoyed it and that it helped you learn a little bit more about your alignment as you move through these poses, and hopefully you feel a bit more connected to the zodiac sign of Virgo. Leave me a comment before you go. Just let me know what you thought of this class and how it went, and maybe if you have Virgo in your chart. I've done a lot more of these zodiac classes, so I will link to them if you want to try the other ones. I'm slowly working my way through the entire zodiac. Please subscribe if you don't already, and hopefully I'll be practicing again with you very soon.